All right, December 1st, of course, still 2019. Got a bit of a cold. We're recovering from a cold this week, so if I sound odd, apologize. Skipped last week. Didn't really get as far as I wanted to get. I certainly didn't this weekend either. Again, just fighting the cold. Been busy. As it turns out, the headers and the engine and the oil pan just fit. It's not a simple process, but I had to completely fab up mounts off each side. I came off the frame, and I still have to pull the engine back out so I can finish weld all the stuff. And then accessories, the radiator, all this is mocked up just to get an idea of where everything's going to be and the weight of the car. I've managed to get the engine nearly completely behind the wheels. You can see how far back the engine is. But this one has, of course, I'm going to have AC, the alternator, all these brackets. It has a lot of weight on the front that kind of moves the engine weight forward. So it was one of the reasons I wanted to move it back. And actually got it down in there too. You can see the crank pulley is actually below the sway bar. So I've got it. It's about, I think, 4 inches low and 6 back. And the T5, swing around over there. I got this side. I did another pass on this side. It's just in primer, but it's close enough where I can start the metal work on the other side, because this all has to be blocked, and I know there's going to be some finished stuff, and it still has some little. That's just the way the primer looks. It's actually pretty smooth. I've got the lips built, and it's rolled back a bit and pulled out. I trimmed off the excess that was behind it, so I wouldn't have any problems. So that's together, mostly together. It's nice seeing it in this state to finally get to let's put some primer on it, and of course now it's got handprints and etc. But I wanted to get the engine in the car. Big step. Find out what kind of problems I was going to run into. And there were plenty. Absolutely. Before mentioned fit problems. I didn't see up here how much was cut out. The T5 bolts, due to the pan where the steering suspension and the frame support pieces and everything has to run, it has to be back this far. If you're going to do this and you're grabbing a 302 out of a Fox, don't try and use the pan, because this is where you're going to be, unless you're just building a track car, in which case you'll be fine, because you want it low and back. So all of this will have to be built, and it was going to anyway. It wasn't as if the dash was going to be where I needed it to be. This is the vintage air kit I picked up, used, of course. It's supposed to all still work. And the hoses are routed incorrectly, and the original Ford spot where they went through there. And while the car comes over here, right about there is where the edge of the, I can't quite see that, but that's the actual engine compartment right there. So I can't get over as far as I'd like to get, so I'm gonna have to make those work. Of course, they're just on swivels, and then heater hoses, I can get some turns in them. So we'll have heat and AC in the car. Of course, I covered we're gonna put the insulation on the car. Had to move the hole because of the engine placement. You can see how far back it is. That was where, presumably, it would have been. That's where the factory shifter was. This being the T5, I don't know how they compare. I didn't have one, so. And you can kind of see the transmission mount through there. So now I've got my light on the other side. Well, this isn't terribly exciting unless you're actually considering this, but this is where we're at. So I've got took the factory trans mount and modified it. Of course, everything's much further back, so have used pieces of it and then used the plate to make the actual pad, and then I have to rebuild the channel put some strength back in it. It's strong enough now to hold the transmission up, certainly, but I still have to box it all in. But it's going to work fine. And unfortunately, those two studs sticking down there are going to be the lowest part of the car until I put exhaust on. And then it's probably going to be a bit lower. So we'll see. And I got some paint under here. So the bottom's coming together. Of course, the helmet floor was done, and these frame pieces and stuff were done last year. So. But got a transmission and an engine and accessories. So exciting stuff. Gonna play around with routing the AC lines. You can see where it's gonna have to be kind of through here, and I'll bring them inside the car, and I'll have to have the lines, of course, adapted. And this guy's dead. Came with it. Used engine, the alternator, power steering. We're not going to use. I haven't decided if I'm going to chop the bracket off or leave it in case I decide to swap that later. You can just see them out through right there, and get the motor back out. We'll finish welding all this stuff. Have to get a condenser, and it's not on the top of the list certainly, but I need to get it so I can make the mounts for it and the radiator, and they're just a bit further back than they were. The factory would have fit right there. The factory radiator and the condenser, I don't know if it's had in front, how they have that rigged. They may not have had it here, but the car itself goes. Goodness, another foot past where we're at right here. So I'll have to box these in, these sections here, to make sure the airflow gets where it needs to get. Electric fans with their own shroud. So that'll be 2 fans in there. One all the time, and then one with the AC or on the switch so I can get it on and off. And then of course, that's to put this piece back in the firewall. And yeah, well, that's where we're at. On the first, this side I haven't done anything but looked at it, and it's comparable to what I have on the other side. It's kind of munchy. So we'll get those 2 pieces made, get them in, get the scroll and primer. So, if you're contemplating the swap, the T5, it's not a happy situation because of, now it's far back because of what I did with the engine to get it where I needed to get. But if you had the motor sitting in the car, the T5 is in line, of course, with the crankshaft of the engine, but the config on the transmission is different than the Ford stuff, because the motor had to sit really far down in the car for it all to line up. So it's an interesting problem. Clearly the firewall was not going to work. I tried moving it back. I thought, surely I could just kind of, no. So that's probably going to be a day, just welding all that back up. And it was coming anyway because I had to reconfig for this box. So not a big deal. All right, day at a time. We'll get there. And no promises, because we just don't know. But hopefully next week I'll have something interesting going on. So I don't think we're to the started stage yet. I need to put so many systems back together. But in the car, I can at least start working on a lot of, working towards that. And I want to have the car, and now also an important point, I can actually get a yoke, throw it in there, and measure for the drive shaft. That was big because I need to get the drive shaft built. So once it does run and everything's bolted together, then it will move. Clearly we're not going anywhere, but being able to start the engine, heat cycle it, prove out all of the mounts, etc. I mean, that's huge, and that's going to be somewhere in January. I'll get it to that point. Yeah, never quit dreaming. It'll happen. All right, next time.